Good day, everyone. So we'll continue with animation. So from our last project, we did our 3D modeling and we did our texturing of the entire part of the phone. Okay. So we'll be talking about animation in this class, and I'll briefly run through what's animation. So animation is make an object move or change shape over time. Now, and there are other properties you can actually animate when you're animating a particular thing. So now objects can be animated in many ways, moving as a whole object, okay, or by changing their position, orientation, or the size within time. So maybe in 0 seconds it's doing something, in the second that's 2 seconds time is doing something different. So those are the things you bear in mind when you're actually animating. That each time or each point in time the there is a property in a particular object that changes. That's how you create the illusion of animation. So other things you can animate is deforming them, so animating a vertex or control points. So by now you should know what vertex based on the modeling things that we've been doing in 3D. Then we'll have inherited animation, so causing the objects to move based on the movement of another object. So maybe you have a hand holding a bottle and you just animate the hand and the bottle itself moves with the hand. So that's inherited animation. So the timeline here, I want to explain this so that when I go into it, because I'm assuming that you have never actually worked with animation before. Now, if you look at here, this high animation, you see that we'll have numbers 0 to 20 to 40. These things are frames, and each frame is like a picture. Okay. Now, when you're making an animation, you have about 25 frames. That's 25 pictures being shown to you in 1 second. So you just flip through it and you just see a movement. So maybe you have someone about to jump in the first frame, in the middle of his jump, in the 15th frame, and then jumping to and already landing in another position in the 25th frame. Okay. Now, if you show those pictures in 1 second, what you actually see is someone jumping from one place to another. If you remember what we did at the beginning of this our course here. So basically, you can be able to animate different things like location, rotation, and you can add what we call a keyframe. So keyframe is like a way of being able to remember a property. Okay, so let's say if I have a keyframe for location, I will remember the location of this object or the rotation property of this object at a particular time. Okay, so and we also have what we call automatic keyframing. That way you can actually automatically keyframe a particular thing. So I'll just go into doing that particular thing right now so you see what I mean. So there are things we haven't done here that we'll have to do. So but before we actually go into the animation part, I will want to make sure that these things are aligned properly. So I'm going to select that. If you look at this, let's select this and rotate and see. Okay, every part of the phone is selected. So let's select this one, rotate. Alright, every part of the handle there is selected. So I would like to select this one and hold shift and select that. Okay, and press Ctrl P. Remember we talked about inherited animation. So if I click on this, it will enable me to animate just this one, just this, rotate, and it will rotate the entire thing. Are you seeing that? Okay. So now let me drag this up. If you bring your mouse over here, you can drag this up and you see the extent. Now if you look at the picture we actually have, you will have another scene that we'll have under here, but it's something that we can quickly do. So but for the meantime, okay, let me see if we can do that. I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to add a circle. So if I add a circle, I'm going to use my arrows and control widgets to control it to come there. I'm going to enter into edit mode. In edit mode, I'm going to select the edges and press A to select all the edges. Then I'm going to press F to face this thing here. Face means like I'm giving it a face because it was actually empty inside here. I'm going to press E and then come up, and I'm going to press E again, scaling. All right, now let's quickly look at the reference we'll have here. It came in inside a bit, so we'll have the this part of it going up like this, and then we'll have it going E again, and then drag it up a bit. All right, so we'll have something like this. So I can just push it down a bit. Okay, so to smoothen it, I would like to add a bevel on it, and reduce this and increase it a bit, and increase this one. So I'm going to right click and smoothen it, so we'll have something like that. So if you look at the light we actually have here, you have all these parts metallic, while this other part is actually a bit shiny, like has a glowing kind of light thing there. So we'll have that. So I'm going to quickly add a material to it. I'm going to call this the base. So this base is going to be metallic. If you remember all the things you have been doing so far, it's going to be metallic. So, and the roughness, I'm going to bring it down. So we want this part, this other part here, to be glowing. So I'm going to enter into edit mode, and I'm going to hold Alt and click here. All right, sorry, I'm going to use my face select. Click here, select here. Okay, you have to actually get that. Sometimes you select it to select just straight, so you just check until you get one that selects. I'm holding Alt as I'm doing this, so you hold Alt and select one of it, and you should select round. Still hold Shift now and Alt and select this one. So to do that, Ctrl Z, and let's select that one. Alright, so we'll have something like this. So there are better ways of doing this, but I think this will work for us. So let me just use this particular one here. So just press Ctrl Z to remove it. So I'm going to click on that and click on New, and I'm going to call this my glow. So I just want it to be like a glowing background that just adds some kind of beauty to our scene. So I'm just going to, as I'm selecting it, I have a new material. I will click on Assign, so it has a new material now. So I'll change that material from principal shader to an emission shader, and I would like it to be a red, and I'm going to increase the glow like that. If you look at here, you have something that looks like it. So now the reason why we are putting this base, so it's going to be easy for us to animate things. So I'm going to select this. This one controls other parts of the phone, and I'm going to hold Shift and select this one. Okay, I'm going to press Ctrl P again and keep transform. So the whole idea is that when I start animating right now, all I need to animate is this one, because we just want to do a sort of animation of this thing actually rotating. So let's go into animation proper right now. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here, select my camera, and I'm going to press Ctrl Alt 0 to lock it here. Now if you don't have that ability, you can just use your control widget and your rotation to rotate your camera to wherever you want it to be. Okay, so you can always split your scene in here in animation, and have to, from here you can be able to see what your scene looks like from the camera view. Okay, so let me select my, remember I'm in animation right here, so I can just move this and see what my camera is seeing. I can go backwards and see. Okay, so we'll have this here. So I would like to select this and scale up my background so that it's going to cover more area there. So I'll go back to my layout. So now let's go ahead and animate this. So everybody get ready for animation. So let's get the steps. So I want to animate this character right now. I want to animate this. So I'm going to use what we call auto keyframing. So auto keyframing enables me to, I won't have to animate manually. Okay, so whatever I do, remember. Now let me show you the difference between auto keyframing and normal keyframing. So if I want to animate by normally, I will go to the first frame. I will say, in the first frame, please, I want you to remain here. So I'm going to press I here. I press, the shortcut is I, and click on rotation. So the rotation, I want it to be like this. Okay, I want to say when you are in the 100 frame, okay, I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to press, let me press N and do it from here. So this is Z axis. So I'm going to use Z and rotate. I'm clicking and dragging it. You can click from here, or you can just simply say 360 and it rotates. But you see that there is no new keyframe. Now this is a memory telling it how it's going to be. In this memory, this Z is 0. So here now, to do that, I will press I again and rotate. So each time I want to remember my keyframe, I'll always have to press I and do that. That's manual keyframing. So if I click and drag, I'm scrubbing right now. Let me just play it. And you see my animation actually rotates here. Okay. These are EV real-time rendering. Okay, it's trying its best to um, run at the best speed. So we'll have this here. So now I want to do auto keyframing now. So to do that, I will click here, then click over here and go over there and say location and rotation. So any location changes I make or rotation changes I make, it will remember it automatically. So now if I go over here to 200, now let's say I change this. Let me press R. Okay, let's go ahead and do it from here. I'm going to keep changing. Let me just go ahead and do it. 360 times 2, that would be 720. So we'll have this here. So another 360. So if you look at here, automatically it will just animate it for us. If you can actually notice what's happening there. So we just animated our scene. So if you start from here, there is the manual keyframing that we did. Let me actually go back to my normal view here and see if it's going to play smoothly. I have a lot of things running in the background here, so I have this. So when I render, it's going to be a bit smoother. Alright, so we'll have something like that. Now, for you, if you notice, the animation is a bit fast. So to slow it down, I will have to spread the keyframe. So if I increase the duration, it will slow it down. So if I say from here to there, it should now be 130, and this one from here should now stop at 250. So this is a 10 seconds animation. So I have about 250 frames. So if I do this now, it's going to be a bit slower now. Alright. So if you look at here, it's slowing down a bit. Alright, so you can increase your keyframes from here, but that would be when we do more complete animations, we can actually do that. So now I want to animate, the second thing I want to animate will be my camera, but let's look at what we have here. So if you go to the next thing, we'll have object animation. So we have animated the object. So emission material, adding emission material, that's this emission material I just added already here to just add some kind of beauty to our scene. So we'll talk about the camera animation. So we want to animate our camera and make it to actually move close to our scene, so it gives it this sort of cinematic sort of animation and beauty. So let's just go ahead to do that first. So if you look at here, I would like to go into my animation. Remember your material preview mode. Okay, so here you can be able to actually see your scene, what it looks like. So you see your timeline. This is your timeline here. All right. So and these are your keyframes. You can always adjust your keyframes. Now, something I actually forgot to tell you. Let's go back here. If you make a mistake, you can always click on your keyframe and press N. Delete. Sorry, delete. Or you press X and delete. X. That's X. So X is for like xylophone, so you can do that. So or you press delete and you can delete the keyframe. All right. So but we're gonna press Ctrl Z and we'll leave it there. So you can always delete a keyframe or you press I to add a keyframe. So I'll go back to my animation here, making sure that everything is okay. So this is what my camera is actually seeing right now. So I'll look at this. Remember, we are still in auto keyframing. So I'm telling my camera that when you are in the first frame, please stay over here. Okay, I want to go back as much as possible. Now, by the 250th frame, I want you to come as close as possible to this, my wonderful. I want you to still view every single thing here. So I want you to view everything. So I think I have something like this. I like it this way. So see what happens. Now let me go back here. So when I play, it comes in gently. So if you look at the entire scene being animated over here. Alright, so we have that particular animation right now. So I'm going to stop it. That's for camera animation, and the object animation is a very simple thing that we'll do. So maybe another time we'll be doing more complex scenes that will be more interesting. So if you go into your rendered mode, you actually see what it's going to look like. So it's actually a dark scene. So by next time we'll be trying to make it look much more interesting. Okay, so let's go back to our material preview. So after that, like this, you should be able to add keyframe, delete keyframe, animate objects, okay, and also animate material. I think we didn't talk about this. Let's still go back again. So animating the camera, I've done that. So animating the material, it's more like this. So if I want to animate my material, um, if you look at this, I have my glowing light here. So I just want to show you how you can actually animate your materials. So if I select this and my animation, let me go back to my layout and stay in this place so that you'll be seeing this very well. So this is my material here. So I can always animate the color, okay. So but what I want to do right now is that I want to go to the strength and say, okay, when you are in the first frame, okay, I want you to have a zero animation, a zero strength, and you see it becomes dark. So I'll put my mouse over it and press I, and that will remind it that by this first frame it is dark. And I'll tell it by the 20th frame I want you to go for 15. Have you seen that? So now what will happen now is that it will slowly gain light, okay. So I will tell it when you gain that light, please let me duplicate a keyframe. I'm going to press Shift D. I'm selecting it here, Shift D, and I will duplicate and say from now to here I want you to retain that light. Okay, let me make it to 60. So from here it's going to be dark, then it comes up with light, stays with the light. Now once it wants to go over here, I want it to go back. I'll press 0. Now because I have my auto keyframing on, it's going to automatically animate all those things now. So I see here, from here it goes down. So I will tell it from here to here I want you to retain that 0. I will press I again. So from here to here you retain 0. Then from here to here it goes back again to 15. So and then from here to here it still remains 15. I'll press I again, and then from here to here I think I'll just leave it like this. I can actually go ahead to make that continue. So if I play, I have my animation come up, it stays, it goes down, it comes up again, then it goes down. Okay, here it should come. Okay, it's off here. Okay, I think I get the point. It's off here and comes up again. All right, and continues like that. Okay, so if you look at our animation, press 0 and you can be able to play animation and see how the light comes up and goes out. All right, so I think that's all we can be able to do for now. So So we're going to actually combine the idea of the week 4 here, so that it's going to be easy. The things we have before it are very simple things. So we'll have the lighting of the scene. So light is more like being able to add light to our scene to make it look beautiful, to be able to see what we actually have in our scene. So you can add simple point light or area light or any kind of light. So and we can use the what we call the 3-point light technique to be able to light scene. Okay, so I'm adjusting the intensity of our color. So let's go ahead to do a practical version of this. So if I come in here now, I will do this. I will just go ahead to select this light and I'm going to delete it so you actually appreciate what I'm doing. So I'm going to go into my rendered mode, and I'm meant to add the HDR image, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to take this down to 0. So if you look at here, the only light we have now, let me come up here, is let me see. Okay, we should have these two lights here. Those are the two lights. So, but you can't see anything here. So let's add a light. So to add a light, come in here, make sure in object mode, Shift A, and add a light. So we'll have different kind of light. So we'll have a point, the area light, and that light there, the spotlight. So I won't want to go into description of all the entire light, but for now I'll be using. Let me use an area light. So when I get my area light, now depending on the scene that you have, remember to turn off your auto keyframing if you still have it on. So I'm pressing G to grab this, and the whole idea of a 3-point light, you want to have your key light, okay, and if your light will have different kind of things, but I won't want to go into details for that right now. It'll take more time. So I'm just going to add this light here. Now if you look at here, the light is not um, very intense. It's not actually affecting the scene. So I will have to increase intensity here. If you look at here, we'll have area light. You can always change it to spot. If you look at now, if I go to sun, it's a bit intense there. Okay, so what I want to use the area light now. I'll go to, let's check that 333, and we'll see our light is coming up. So the whole idea of a 3-point lighting system, I'm going to drop this 0. I will have my main light R. I'm pressing R and rotating on the Z axis. So press R, Z, and you rotate. Okay, so you check how this is. You can always use your controls. Take this up. Okay, so I'm going to bring this down a bit. So we'll have this scene here now. Okay, so we'll have this. So this I'm going to go for a stronger light. Let me go for 555. So we'll have something like that. Now I will affect a bit of the effect that the light has on this scene by turning on the custom distance. Okay, so I can increase that. Okay, so the other things I can do, the shadows and contact shadow and stuff, I can be able to do, but I won't want to go into that now. Just uh, allow it like this, so you can always increase the distance it covers. Okay, so I'm going to add a new light. The fastest way, I'll just do Shift D, duplicate this light, bring this one. Now if you look at the arrow, it's pointing to this point, so I'm going to rotate, press R, Z, and move my mouse this way. Let's see if I'm rotating this way. Okay, so I want it to be, so this is more like I feel light, so I'm trying to light it from one other side here, but you see that it's casting two shadows here. So to remove that, I'm going to uncheck that shadow there, and I'm going to reduce, because I don't want it to have the same intensity of light, because this is more like simulating like more of the light is coming from here. So we have the HDR image, and we're still going to work with something on that. So I'm going to just go ahead to reduce this about let's say 77. So I'm going to increase a bit to see what we'll have there. So the whole idea is that you want, even when you are here, you want to be able to see a bit of this. So I'm just going to bring that up. Okay, so okay, I think we're going to overboard with that. Okay, so we'll have this. I'm going to select this and increase my lights there. So we haven't added a HDR light yet, so we're going to do that later. So the next thing I would have added another light. If you look at here, let's see the back. Here is a bit dark, so I'm going to add another light here, Shift D. So this light, I'm going to make it a point light. So the point light, puts lights all around. It's not really directional. It's just giving a putting up a light from a particular point. Okay, I think my scene is, let me press 0. Okay, so I'll bring this down. So I have this. So if you look at this glow, to remove this shininess, I will just reduce the specularity there. Okay, and this one I'm going to take it to about 22. So I want it to be a bit bright so that when it turns, in case you're looking at it from here, you can actually see the back of the phone. Alright, it won't be too dark to be visible to you. So I have something like this now. So if you look at here, you actually see your scene being lit. Okay, so we'll have these things here. To remove them, just select this, and I think that should be the specular, so you can remove that also. So I'm going to remove the specular too. Okay, I think we're going to leave the specular and turn up the specular for this material. I'm going to select this material itself and go down to specular and reduce the specular. I think that should, okay. Let me see the best thing we can do to maximize that. Okay, this is gone. I think we'll actually need one of it to be able to actually see this part of our screen. So let me see. Okay. If you take it off completely, that will not be good for our seeing that. Okay, so let's work with that. For the meantime, you can actually check out what is the challenge later. So after that, the next thing we want to do is we'll have put our lights, our 3 lights. So we can position the light using your control widgets and adding HDR. Now the HDR is a high dynamic range light, so it's more like putting up a light that will light up the entire scene and give it more realistic color, or, or like realistic reflection when by using a picture from a surrounding. Okay, I don't know how to actually explain this best here because we're out of time, so I'll just go in here. When I bring it in, I will explain it better. So if I go to color, I'll go to environmental texture. Now before I was adding an image texture. Now remember, you're going to the world, you're not going to material, you're going to the world setting. This is your world setting. So I'm going to click here, color, environmental texture, and click on open. So I'm going to go to my textures, and inside your texture you should find HDR. So I'm going to bring in this HDR. Now I would like to go back a bit so you actually appreciate what's happening here. So and the strength is 0, so I'm going to bring it up a bit like this. So if you look at here now, you see that I'm using let me see what is happening to our scene here. Okay, so we'll have a better scene here. So if you look at here, we're using a real picture, okay, to simulate a real life light. Okay, so we'll have the sun coming from somewhere. Let me see where the sun is coming from here. So we're trying to use this light here to simulate as if the sun is really shining on it. Okay, so if you look at the surrounding, it reflects better light. So we can actually use this light. It's a better lighting system. In fact, even if I turn off this environment light can be able to light up this particular scene very well and gives it more realistic look. So I'm just going to increase this a bit. So if you increase it continuously, you see that you have even a brighter thing here. So but we want to make sure that we have a scene that reflects our light. Okay, so I would like to just make it about 0.2 there. So if I press 0 and I have my scene, so it still has the whole glow thing. Let me take it down a bit. So it still has the glow. Let's go back again. So it comes up. So this is the material preview and this is the render view. And there are many other things we can be able to do to optimize this scene. So, but we're going to leave that for the meantime. Okay. Alright. So we'll have this here. Okay. So at the end of that, when we add the HDR, we can always change the intensity of it. And let's add a text and sound. Okay. So now we have finished our animation, animating our camera, and lighting our scene to at least look a bit much more interesting to look at in the rendered mode. So bear in mind, make sure you have turned on this blue, the screen space reflection. You can turn on refraction too. So and there's some other things you can turn on. So but for the meantime, we'll just work with this particular thing here. So I'm going to add my text. So add your text. You add it the same way you have been adding things. So we're going to add iPhone 13. So that's not really iPhone 13, but we're going to just add that. So I'm just going to click on this, the 3D cursor, click here, because I want the text to be here. I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go down to text, click on that. And when you bring in the text, it's going to be lying flat. Okay, so I'm just going to bring it here. Now I'm going to press N. I want to do it from here so you understand what's happening. So if I check here, if you look at here, when I increase, see how it's rotating. If you don't understand the axis, let me go for X. I see here it comes up. So if I rotate on the X axis, which is actually this axis, it should stand. So I'll press 90. Okay, so it will actually stand when you actually get this. So you always bring this out by pressing N. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to bring this out here and take this down a bit. So let's edit the text. So to edit it, we have to enter into edit mode. Edit mode, or press tab. So I'm going to call this iPhone 13. I'll press S to scale it down like that. Bring it up like this. Okay. So I think I would like to. So iPhone 13. Okay. So we'll have something like this now. So I'm going to scale it down a bit. Now, so if you look at now, it's just flat. So to give it depth, I'm going to click on this object data property here, and I'll go down to geometry and I'll extrude it. So to give it the thickness. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead to add a material, a glue material to it. Click on that. I think our material here is red. So when I add a material, let me call this my text and change this to an emission and increase it and change this to red. So I have something like this. Let me take it down. So when I do that, I have my scene. Let me take this up a bit more. Okay, I think it's more interesting now. Let me push this back a bit, take it down. Okay, I want to make sure it's actually a bit, yes, a bit inside. So I'm using this to actually drag it around to get exactly what I want. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to parent this so that when I begin to animate, it will inherit the animation on this my stand here. Okay, so I'm going to hold Shift, select this, and press Ctrl P and keep transform. So now if I begin to animate, it works with it. Okay, yeah, it rotates with it. So I have this here. So I'm going to come up here. So I've already added a material for my text. So I wouldn't use a speaker for this particular period. I'm going to add a sound using the video editor, okay, because you can also add sound using the speaker, but it's more effective to add sound using the video editor. All right. So to do that, I'm going to go over to my, I'm going to click on this and go to video editing, and I'm going to add the video editor. So now I can be able to add an audio sound, okay. So I'm going to go ahead to add. I'm going to go to sound. So I'll go to my in assets, I'll go to my sound, and you should see a sound there. So I'm going to bring it in, and it should be here. So if you play, all right. So I'm just going to leave that there. So I'm going to go back to my layout, press 0 to on the numbers pad, and that. There's some other reflections I won't want to see, but I'm going to leave that for the meantime. Alright, so we'll have that. So the last part of our animation is what we call rendering. So let's just briefly talk about what rendering is. So rendering is a process of creating a 2D image or video from your 3D scene. So what that image looks like is based on 4 factors, which can be users can control. So the camera, so where your camera is actually viewing or looking at the objects in the scene, the light you have actually put in the scene, the kind of materials you have, and other various settings like the quality of the rendering and some other qualities to optimize the entire look. So but the whole idea is that you want to be able to turn this 3D scene into a picture or a video. All right. So now you can render using, there are two render engines that Blender has. It has the EV and Cycles Render. Cycles Render takes more time. So before this work, we're going to be using EV because it's a bit faster and it still give you something very realistic. So we're going to be touching that. So now I'll just go straight to that. So coming up here, I will, if you look at here, I have my rendering. So I'm trying to turn this into a render. Okay, so I will come in here. First, let me make sure that my rendering is going to work well. So if I scrub this animation, this is what it's going to be. So when I render, these lights will not come out. Okay, so I'm just going to render, and if you click here, you can go for cycles or EV. So we're sticking to cycles for the meantime. So I'm going to go to my the next setting here. So it's giving me a HD, alright. So you can leave this here. You can always set it from here, 4K, or anything you actually want. So the next thing we want to do is that we're going to click here to tell it the location where we want it to save whatever we want, whatever we render. So I'm going to click here and go to my render, and I'm going to call this my short animation. Okay. So I'm going to accept that. So when I accept it, I can change this. If I render as PNG, it's going to render a PNG image for me, but I'm going to render rather FFmpeg, okay. And I'm going to go down to encode, and I will leave it as this. But then coming down here, I will make sure I change this to either MP3 or AAC. Okay, so but I think I will go with MP3 for the meantime for a good quality, so that it's good. So I can just go for medium quality for the meantime. So I have my MP3 there. So I think that's just the basic things I want to go with. So make sure that your frame starts from where you want it to be and stops ends where you want it to be. So this is where it is right now. Okay. So now there are two things you can do when you want to render. If you want to render a particular scene, okay. So you can just come down here. You can render straight an image. Or you can render the animation. Now you can render this animation, or when you render this animation, it will give you a realistic view. But if you want to do a real-time rendering, you have to go to view. I think I have to do that from the other side. Let me go back to layout in here, in this object mode, and say render um, uh, animation. Okay, so but this might take some time, but for us to do that, in case you have never worked with that before, I would like you to just look what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that my scene, focused on my scene like this. Okay, and I will turn off this, so it will turn off all the what's it called, all these controls that you have here, because if they are there, it will render those things. So I'm going to turn these things off. Okay, so make sure that I am in my rendered scene, and I can just click here and go in for render animation. Okay, so if I do this, it will give me a real-time rendering. It's a bit faster than rendering it as this, but this will give you a better quality if you render animation, but this will take a bit more time. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, so maybe later I will show you this version when I render this. So but for the meantime, in case you are running out of time, you can always render very fast with EV real time. So we're going to leave these things for the meantime. Let's just be part of our design for the meantime here. So I'm going to click on view and click on render animation. Now if you look at what is happening, it's going from frame 1 to frame 2 to frame 3. So it's a bit faster. Okay, so we're going to be waiting for this. I'm just going to go back to here. So let's finalize our class here. So at the end of this, we have the lights and every other thing that we can add. So here we did the viewport rendering. Okay, so that's viewport rendering, and this is the video when you are done rendering. This is what it should look like. Okay, I think my system is a bit overloaded. So let's take it out. Okay. So this is a bit of the animation I just rendered. So finalizing, so in this place we did adding lights to the scene and adding the 3D text to the model and adding music in the background and rendering the scene into a video file. So at the end of this, we should be able to get a full animation of the entire scene. Remember, from this is what we are meant to actually get from the beginning of this course. Thought about how what we expect to actually get at the end of our scene. This is actually the video we should get when we do our final rendering. So my system is a bit overloaded. Alright, so that's basically the whole animation process here. So if you have any question, you can relate that to me, and I think that's our conclusion. But in conclusion, I just want to conclude on the things we have done so far. So we have learned how to what 3D animation is about, how to work with business things around it, and how to model things, texture them, animate them, and also how to add music in the background and render the scene into a video file. So your client, this is the entire thing that your client needs, okay, for you to be able to render this. So you can optimize this to something even better. So this is just a more of a real-time rendering that we have done here. So you can always be able to optimize your work, make it look more interesting, but it's more like something you have to put in more time to do, and you can be able to put more effects, do some compositing, but that's beyond the range of what we're going to be covering in this course. So your weekly exercise, you're going to do another exercise that I'm going to actually put very soon, so that you can be able to work on something, a cool product design that you're going to start from scratch and finish up. So if you have any question, you can relate that to me on the platform, and see you some other time. It was wonderful teaching you guys. Thank you.